Hey, this is David Worth from the UNC Keeling Flagler Family Enterprise Center, and this is another Light Conversations. I'm here to talk with my friend Todd Collins, who lives in Charlotte. He's a founder of a successful family business. He's also got a new venture that he's starting to provide access to capital to maybe some underserved businesses in the area that I'd love to hear more about, but it's a great example of how family businesses are stepping up to help their communities. Thanks for joining, Todd.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about your business and about this new initiative.
Yeah, so we have a firm, Red Hill Ventures, and Red Hill Ventures really has two divisions. One is a traditional commercial real estate company where we own and operate apartment communities, office buildings, shopping centers, those sorts of things. And we have operations in North Carolina, DC, Maryland, and a project coming along in Texas. And then the other side is more of a traditional investment company where we either build or buy businesses. So we've built and recently sold a technology company, and now we've invested in a company called City Kitch, and we're working to expand that throughout the state of North Carolina. So that's been a fun endeavor. So that's what we're into.
Tell me a little bit about City Kitch, because that's a really neat, very contemporary model for serving people food. That's fun to talk about.
Yeah, so City Kitch is a shared commercial kitchen. So it's interesting. We own commercial property that services restaurants, so like shopping centers. And one of the challenges in opening a restaurant just costs a lot of money. I mean, if you're installing hoods and doing all those things required to get permitted as a business, it's expensive. And there are a lot of food entrepreneurs out there that aren't ready to make that initial investment. So with City Kitch, what we do is our facilities are typically between 13,000 and 50,000 square feet, and we provide all those things that you need to have a licensed restaurant or food preparation facility, and the ranges and the ovens and all those things that are needed to produce food sort of en masse. And so with this kitchen, what you do is with City Kitch, we can have multiple restaurants work out of one facility. And what it allows you to do is have a high functioning restaurant at a much lower cost. And so far it's been very well received. We have 2 locations in Charlotte, and we're opening a location in Greensboro in January.
It sounds like too, if the overhead's lower, take some pressure off, then they can experiment more with different foods, different ideas. That sounds like a kind of a tributary of that too. That's kind of neat.
That's right. And it's interesting. You have a lot of meal prep companies that are producing really healthy food trucks. Once you get into it, you realize there's actually a lot of really good food being prepared that you had no idea about. So that's sort of an added advantage. You get to taste things on the fly that you didn't think you get to try on a given day. So it's a really cool concept, and it's been going pretty well. So I'm excited.
Where do you get the energy to take on all these entrepreneurial ventures?
Well, I enjoy it. I've always enjoyed it. So, I've always enjoyed creating. And so as an entrepreneur, you get to create and you get to see something go from nothing or something very small into something hopefully much larger. And to me, that's just the fun part about being an entrepreneur. It does take a lot of energy, but fortunately I got it. So you might as well put it to work.
Have you thought about whether you'll try to pass this businesses along to your kids?
I have. So, we're blessed with 3 kids, and my son's 9, I have daughters 10 and 14. And I've spoken to folks, even like yourself, who have family businesses, and one thing you realize is, your desire may not be their desire. So I am sensitive to the fact that maybe this won't be the path that they want to take. But what we're doing now is my wife and I, Janelle, we're exposing them to the business that we run. So, and we try to do it in ways that are fun. At least we view it as fun. So, we own apartment complexes, and we'll go out if we have to do some new landscaping project in one of the communities. I'll actually take the kids out and we'll do some of the work ourselves, or we'll go out and I'll let them paint something, and they actually get their hands dirty, and then when they go to the site again, they can actually see their work, and they think that's really cool. So my daughter, who's 14, she planted bushes when she was 8 that she goes back, she says, "Oh, look, I did that when I was 8 years old." So that's how we're introducing them. But it would be great if they had an interest in it, but I don't want to make them feel like they're obligated to sort of carry on what I'm doing.
I've found that with my kids in our family business in Greensboro, North Carolina, that that's my approach as well, is to try to keep expectations low for what the kids are going to actually do, and let's not get in fights over it, but just those little touches do have a big impact on them, and they start to understand a little bit more about what you do. Part of growing up too is figuring out what you don't want to do.
I will say my son, one day I'm tucking him into bed, and he goes, we're talking, and he says, "Well, Dad, what are you going to do when I take over Red Hill Ventures?" I was like, well,
there you go.
Don't put me, I still have some work to do, but that was encouraging. At least even at a young age, he's thinking that that's a possibility. We'll see if he continues to think that way.
But you're right. One thing a family business provides is an opportunity, if they get those experiences, to respect the different skills it takes to run a business. And
yes.
if you're not working for a family business, it might be hard to provide those types of opportunities, because you're right. It takes all kinds of people. Some people like different things. You got different aptitudes and capabilities. And if you give them a little test of all those different things all over, it's kind of like it gives them more appreciation.
That is a big advantage. I mean, the fact that they get to see people doing all sorts of things, and see that all areas, all of the team members, regardless of their responsibility, are all equally respected, and make the business go forward. I mean, that's been, hopefully they're getting that. I think they are.
Well, tell me about, just to shift a little bit, tell me a little bit about this new fund that you're putting together.
Yeah, so we're creating a fund, and the name is Red Hill Capital. On our site, Red Hill Ventures, we have a link to Red Hill Capital. And it's something that we very recently stood up. So, David, as you know, when I started this business, and we started super small, and it took a number of years to grow it, and we're still in the process of growing it. I mean, it's sort of an ongoing effort. And one of the challenges that I experienced, and I think is still experienced, especially just lack of access to capital. And there's all sorts of capital. It could be the inability to get debt or loans, the inability to have sufficient equity to sort of stand up the business, the inability to have operating funds. There's all these different areas of capital that's really can either, what it does is it suppresses the size of the business. So you could have an entrepreneur or some business owner out there is working as hard as any other person, as smart, but the challenge is, because they just don't have the capital to efficiently grow the business, they can only be but so large. And so what we would like to do to address that is we've set up this program where we have a fund, the Red Hill Capital, where if you submit an application and go through a process of vetting, we'll provide capital to you to help you grow your business. And we're focusing on really businesses on the smaller side. So sort of $1 million in revenue up to $5 million in revenue. We like founder-led businesses or family, someone intimately involved in the business. We like a business model that's somewhat proven. It's just that they need, additional runway, be it time or capital to grow the business. And we want to partner with those folks to help their vision become a reality. And we're super excited about it. I'll tell you, I get calls from people who are sort of in this process, and it's just always just impressive to see what people are doing. And we would like to lend a helping hand in any way that we can.
There's a diversity, equity, and inclusion component to this. So a
Yes.
value outside of simply making a buck, right?
That's right. So, I mean, I'll tell you, as an African American founder, you assume that you're sort of just, you do the work and that sort of thing, and everything will work out. But there is a challenge in that, if you go to a bank, there's a chance as you're growing that you're not going to get a loan. I mean, depending on your type of business, if you're a business that doesn't have a lot of assets that can be backed, then yeah, you're going to have a challenge getting a loan. And oftentimes, Lisa, I underestimated the challenge of that. Even when we grew our technology business, David, in the end, it worked out to our advantage because we couldn't get investment or capital, so we wound up, owning the whole thing. So in the end, it was great. But so going along the way, we pursued capital on a couple of occasions, and just really we were not able to secure capital at halfway reasonable terms. And I think that, to a degree, is an education process, which is a component of Red Hill Capital. So I think that there are capital providers that I'm aware of now that could be a benefit to someone who was more like me a few years ago, who was sort of going through and pursuing it. And so one of our goals actually would be to introduce the folks that we're in conversation with to various groups that may be beneficial to them, even if it's not Red Hill Capital. So yeah, there is a component of it where we're not just trying to sort of generate revenue. We are hoping to see additional diverse minority businesses grow up in the Southeast. We think it's going to help the folks that found the business, but it'll also help the region in general have greater minority representation from a business ownership perspective.
You mentioned to me that the data coming out suggests that there really was a disparity in the number of PPP loans, for example, that maybe minority-owned companies received versus other companies. What was that? What's the number you threw out there?
Yeah, I mean, and this is, I guess you pull the Charlotte Observer, and this is published data, but in Charlotte, of all the PPP loans that were issued, as reported, there were 6 African American owned businesses that received those loans. And clearly, now there could be a delta in that. Maybe the reporting's slightly wrong, but even if it is, clearly there's an indication that we were underrepresented within the PPP process. And that's it's an example of just the broader issue of challenges associated with access to capital.
Well, I just appreciate that you're the pioneering aspect of this, because I think it also backs up some of the things that we talk about in our family business classes that are, as a founder, and all that work that you put into having a successful business, but the control that you have can be an asset in times like this that are tough, because you're super nimble and can be real flexible in how you apply things. So it seems like a great example of that. And I have been amazed by how inclusive actually the conversation has been over the last few months when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I haven't heard about a lot of people actually doing things yet, right?
Right.
And so I hope that can be an example of something that you can do tangibly to really make a difference.
I think people, I mean, people want to do something. I think everybody wants to do something. The question is just, what do you do?
Right.
And really, we were in that same boat where we felt like we could do more than what we were doing. We have always, our investments are in many cases in minority communities where we feel like we can make something better than what it is to help that community. And we've been successful in doing that. And as you mentioned, nimble, we're a nimble company where we can make decisions to improve an asset, which has historically been overlooked by maybe another company. And so we view that as a way of giving back. We've always wanted to do more. And so, Red Hill Capital is one of those efforts to actually do more.
Todd, thanks so much for talking with me today, and I wish you the best. I wish Red Hill Capital the best. Any last thoughts?
No, just Keith, I've enjoyed the series that you're doing, and thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Have a great week.
Okay, you too.